All right, Audi, can we return it to the customer in this state? So the suspension now works, but after a while, when you start driving, the malfunction indicator flashes and it's setting this solenoid valve mechanical fault code. Let's do a little research online and see what could possibly cause this, because it seems all the valves are working. You know, it doesn't leak down. It's been standing here all night. It's still in, you know, in a good height. What could be the issue? Well, I found a very informative post here on Rostech, and these are the guys who make the VCDS. And it's nice that these posts are short and to the point with less fluff. You actually need to be registered, a registered user to post on here. So here we go. 02645 valves for level control system mechanical malfunction. That's the code that's coming up on our, it's exactly same year, same engine. So Mark here says VCDS user. When the vehicle stationary air suspension operates perfectly, upon driving all is well until you slow down to less than 15 miles per hour. At this point, air suspension fault light begins flashing. Fault entered is the 2645 valves for level control system mechanical malfunction. This clears if you switch the vehicle on and off until you drive it slow again. Okay, very interesting. There are no obvious problems with the functionality of the air suspension. It operates seamlessly when the vehicle is stationary and the fault light is off. We have tested the wiring, checked for leaks, exchanged right height sensors, valve block from known good car, did not alter the fault. I have also reconditioned the compressor assembly by installing a new piston ring and renewing the desiccant in the dryer. Attaches an auto scan, thanks in advance. So Rostech employee from Back to the Future. There's a wiki page for this. There's also a TSB, which says like moisture in the system. And then the relay could be the source of the fault code for the compressor, so the compressor is not running at full strength maybe. Okay, hope this helps. Let us know what you find out. And Mark says, thanks for the response. I have replaced the relay with a new Hella relay. It made no difference to the fault. And then finally he updated it a few months later. After a lot of head scratching, we figured out what was causing the issue, the compressor. Even though it had been reconditioned with a new piston ring seal kit, it turned out that the motor must have been weak or had a high resistance and was causing air pressure not to build up quite as quickly as the ECU requested. Even though live data seemed fine, the suspension seemed to pump up okay. So it is a rationality fault when the pressure doesn't build up too fast. I hope this helps everyone in the future is having a similar problem and cannot seem to get to the bottom of it. Okay, so very handy, the compressor. So it's not building pressure fast enough. So my question is, why, Audi, do you set the code for valves for level control system mechanical malfunction? Why don't you say weak pump? I guess if the valve is leaking, it could cause a similar scenario where you can't pump it up fast enough or at all. But if everything holds fine, then it has to be the compressor. So I'm going to do a last ditch effort here. I'm going to clean the main connector for the compressor. There was a little green corrosion in there, so there's no voltage drop at that connector. And then I want to hook up the battery charger, set it to 14 volts, so we have maximum voltage available, and then run a bidirectional test to fill the accumulator. So on the test drive, if you remember, the car's level, it's not trying to go up and down. Then the compressor kicked on, and it just went on and on and on for like a minute, got up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and then shut off. What was it trying to do there? The pressure was almost at 15 bar, which is over 200 psi. Why is it pumping and pumping and pumping? Well, I think it's trying to fill the accumulator. So in the system, the accumulator is like a big air tank, and the car wants to have air on reserve. So on the fly, when you change the suspension settings or you're in auto mode, the car, it can obviously drop down quickly due to gravity, but it can also pump up really quickly within a few seconds just by letting the air out of the accumulator into the shocks. So it doesn't need to run the pump to raise the ride height if it has enough air stored in this accumulator. And while you're driving, it wants to have the accumulator topped up, and I think that's when this code is setting and we're running into these problems. So let's hook up the charger, clean the connector for the compressor, run a bidirectional test to inflate the accumulator and see what the compressor temperature is, what the pressure rises to, and maybe the accumulator was completely empty and it was trying to fill it during the first few test drives. And if the accumulator is almost topped up, maybe this code won't appear. Now, I'm not saying the pump isn't getting weak, but can we get a car to a state where it's happy, problem-free, maybe just keep it in comfort mode so it's not going up and down all the time, to keep this compressor from running excessively, and see if you can achieve some kind of resolution here. Alright, so under the car, the connector for this compressor does look pretty ugly. And in here also, yeah, you can see the green crusty. So I'm going to do my best to clean this out. Now keep in mind, you don't want to soak this thing with deoxit, because deoxit, I found, destroys the weather pack. It swells it up and you won't even be able to plug the connector back in. So we'll be careful, use little file, pipe cleaners, deoxit, blow this thing out and give the compressor the best chance that it has. Alright, here we go. So cleaned up the connector for the compressor. Have the charger set at 14 volts. And now I want to, it says bleed the accumulator, but that's pump up the accumulator. And in order to access basic settings, you need to access permission and put in 08367. 08367. Login success. Read by list. Let's bleed the accumulator. Okay. It says bleed, so adjust 10 bar. Okay, now ventilate pressure reservoir. Fill. Okay, well the names are a little misleading, so adjust. So 10 bar. Let's sit there and look at our current clamp. About 18 amps. Okay. $11 amps. Or 11 bar, sorry. So is this too slow? It might be slow. We're just going to let it run, see what happens. If it's going to time out or overheat or what. It does sound a little weak. We can measure the voltage on there. So it pumped it up to 12 bar. But if you remember during the test drive, it was trying to go to like 16 bar. So what if we say adjust again? Let's see how long it takes. So it's 10:04. Oh man, it's at 30 amps. So it is overheating, drawing too much current. That sucks. So the compressor is getting weak. Alright, so let's start the compressor. You can see it's drawing a lot of amps. 27 amps. And let's look at the thermal camera. How hot is it getting? Not terribly hot. About body temperature right now. It's drawing 30 amps. That's not normal. Now we're getting up to 13 bar. It should have a cutout at some point. so we can run it a few times. Keep in mind, at this pressure, it is going to draw more current. It's harder for the motor to keep spinning. Okay, we're at 14 bar. Okay, we're heating up to 60C. 100C is boiling. And the temperature sensor said it was getting up to like 400 degrees C. So we can let it cool down a little bit. We can put a fan on here just in case it's not excessive. So 14.3 bar. Let's see how high you can ramp it up. Alright, so we did set a code, switch off to due to excessive temperature. The pump itself is 60C, so I don't know where the temperature sensor lives. You know, what's the hottest part of the pump? We'll let it cool down and clear the code and keep pumping it up. I want to see the maximum pressure. Alright, we got our cooling fan set up. Let's adjust it one more time. 26 amps. The screen shows up. 27 amps. 28. Okay, we're over 16. That's good. Still 30 amps. Okay, it's done. 16.6 is the cutoff, so the pressure reservoir is now fully filled up. That's great. So the compressor can achieve that in several cycles. Now let's test drive the car, keep it in comfort mode, and see if any fault code's set. Alright, final check that I want to do is measure for voltage drop at the air compressor. So if you remember, some of the forum posts said the relay, it carries 30 amps, so the relay contacts are likely to be pitted. That's why the dealer says replace the compressor and the relay to avoid comebacks. So I want to see, do we, when the compressor is really working hard, do we have a full, 13 or 14 volts right at the compressor, power and ground, just to make sure that the relay is not the easy, cheap fix in this case. So 2 meters set up, and yes, this is not a great place to poke holes, but we will seal this up, and it's on the compressor side. So if the compressor is replaced, which it will have to be to fix this problem the right way, this is replaced with the compressor. That's just a pigtail. So I'm measuring across these two wires and measuring the amperage at the same time. So when we hit adjust, it'll turn on the compressor, so watch the voltage and the amperage. 13.5 volts, 20 amps. Oh, it's starting to seize up, 25 amps. Still above 13 volts. 27. And look at our bar. 14 bar. Supposed to go to 16 much faster. See, the amperage is climbing. Still at 13 volts. The charger is set at 14. So this is a heavy load. Stuff is heating up. And I think it's supposed to pump up a little faster than that. So the compressor voltage supply is great, the ground is just fine, so the relays is actually doing great, but the compressor itself is getting tired. That's the end of the diagnosis. Alright, so let's first drop it into comfort mode and see if it stays there. Okay, so dropping down. Now let's go to our suspension control system. And it's a wet one today. Supposed to get 3 inches of rain. Crazy. So make sure there's no fault codes and data stream. As we drive, I want to monitor the compressor, you know, if it's on or off, the temperature, the pressure on that, you know, on the pressure sensor, and our positions. Well, no warning lights on the dash, that's a first. By the way, to clear the TPMS system, in this MMI, you basically check all the tire pressures and say tire pressure monitoring, store tire pressures, and that cleared that TPMS code out. So I don't know. Let's drive on the paved road and see what happens on this suspension system. So on the live data, you can see that, I don't know if it checked how much pressure the accumulator had, because it opened the accumulator valve and it checked the pressure, and then it's like, okay, and then opened the discharge solenoids, and now we're at, you know, basically zero at the pressure sensor. The accumulator should still be fully charged. So I'm going to save a picture of that. We're going to keep driving and see if it sets any trouble codes. Dang it! Look, it ramped up the compressor, saw some pressure, so that was like a check. And now you got the TPMS. Okay, so we'll save this screenshot. Didn't take long. So it is like a check for the compressor efficiency, I guess. That's pretty neat. So it got up to what, 15 bar? Right there. I'm actually going to take a picture with my phone because it's easier. So with all the valves closed, wait, it opened the accumulator valve, pumped it up, and then turned on the compressor. The temperature went way up and the pressure didn't really go up. And then it shut the accumulator valve off and said, hey, you have a problem with your valves. Okay, so I'm sure the code, there it is, solenoids for level control system. Okay, so that's neat. The car does a self-test on compressor efficiency and, you know, valve, I guess, function, but that code is kind of misleading. If it wasn't for that forum post and doing all these checks, you wouldn't say, hey, my compressor's weak, because it turns on, it seems to pump the car up, but it's weak. It doesn't, you know, it should ramp up that pressure faster. So that's the end of this case study. We're going to give the car back to the customer like this. I still want to do a battery reset or relearn to see if his alternator problem goes away, but it seems to be charging just fine at 13.5 volts. And the module was messed up. Why did the module get messed up? Why are all the deviation values, you know, completely wrong? We couldn't do a calibration with the old module. I have no idea. Was it the charging system voltage? Was it a weak compressor that led to that? I don't really think so, because the module is just, you know, it controls relays. It doesn't send all the current to the compressor. But I guess I won't be going back to the dealer. They were right. The compressor does need to be replaced. Now, charging $600 for that diagnosis. Yeah, but that's why they call them the dealership. And it wouldn't have solved the customer complaint. It did need a module. But they said, without replacing the compressor, we can't go further with the diagnostics. Okay. I guess that's fair enough. So, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay away from these European cars if you value your money. If you don't, then go ahead and buy one. But we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Alright, so last thing I want to do is this battery adaptation procedure as recommended by Mike Salazar for this weird alternator, sometimes commanded not to charge problem. So In the module 19 data bus OBD interface, that's the gateway, in guided functions, you need to be connected to the internet for this. We go to battery adaptation. So let's see what the instructions are. Right now I have the charger hooked up. The following still be performed: inquiry of battery data, calculation of adaptation value, performing adaptation, required test equipment none. So continue. Ignition is on. Continue. I should probably turn off the battery charger. Alright, so charger is turned off, and we'll say adaptation should be changed because a new battery was installed. So let's do 1. History data will be erased. Battery should be adapted after fault finding is completed. Do you want to adapt the new battery now? Yes. How many amp hours has the battery? Who? Good question. I have to find out from the owner here. So I don't want to tilt the seat up to look at the battery. So to do the battery registration procedure, we need to know some specs on this battery, and the customer replaced it about a year ago. He doesn't remember what it is. It lives under the driver's seat, so I have the seat fully forward and up. We can tilt up this cover, but if you want to get the battery out, you have to actually remove the seat, which is ridiculous. I just want to get some numbers. So with the borescope, you can see here, basically I saved some pictures on my phone, so I got the numbers off of the tags on the battery. You can see it is a it's an Interstate. Interstate AGM. So borescope is absolutely key here. So let's do that battery adaptation procedure with the scanner. Alright, how many amp hours has the battery? Well, right here, 95 amp hours. So we'll hit 95. There are different part numbers. This is battery size. What is the part number of the battery? I don't know. It just says MTX 49H8. What's the equivalent there? I really don't know. Alright, we're just going to go with number 1. Number 1. 10-digit serial number of the battery. Serial number corresponds to the last 10 digits of a sequence of digits and letters. How about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, perform adaptation. That's it? Well, Mike said you have to let the car sit for whatever, 4 hours here. Let's start up, see what it charges to. Well, we're at 13.5 in live data. This is around 13. I mean, nothing really changed. I don't know what to say. Let's go back to the gateway module. Look at the live data in here. See what the generator command is. See voltage, generator control. field current, voltage specified, field signal, okay. 13.5 is, it's the same command. Now we're 3 and 7, okay. For the battery, let's see, aging, resistance, capacity, battery state of charge. So we're at 100% now. Before it said 94, 78 state of charge. Nothing changed. Nothing changed at all. So I think we're done with this car. I don't know what else to do with it. So we're taking the Audi on one last test drive before returning it to the customer. That's good. No warning lights, but as we start driving, I'm sure the suspension system will fuss about the weak compressor. We got like 5 inches of rain in 2 days, and you see the lane is coming over pretty good here. Maybe I should have switched to off-road mode. Alright, let's take it for a spin. Alright, there's the compressor trying to fill the reservoir. See, the pressure is climbing slowly and the temperature is going through the roof. 158, 160, at only a 10.4 bar. So it'll start fussing soon. Yep, there we go. So shut off the compressor, we got up to like 13 bar TPMS. So the owner will install a brand new compressor on his own. So I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on the 2012 Audi Q7 diesel. That car is my worst nightmare, I swear. That's why I'm doing a video with a real Audi in the background, not a bloated, over-computerized piece of garbage. I'm sorry to the owner, but that's what I thought of that car once we got it back on the road. So it's been 2 months, and the customer just installed a new air suspension compressor, did it himself, plug and play. He said no more error codes in the air suspension, and he's still driving it with the alternator unplugged. Car's happy at 14 volts, so if it works, right? We didn't really get to the bottom of that charging system problem. It was very intermittent, and once the air suspension bit the dust, you know, that was priority, obviously, to get the car drivable again. And once I was done with that, I just literally wanted that car out of my life. So the owner said he'll experiment with driving around with the alternator plugged in, monitoring the voltage, but that's a minor issue compared to that air suspension problem. What's the moral of the story? Well, everyone lost money except for the dealer on this one. I'll be honest. I spent days and days of my life on this. Didn't make much at all. I mean, I charged the customer for diagnosing and fixing the air suspension. So why was that module corrupt? That's the question of the day. That's the way that the car came to my shop. Air suspension was disabled, and the only reason it was still drivable was because there were no leaks. So it just stayed at that level. It was, you know, a little low, and the owner said he never messed with the settings, just kept it in auto. But the car, you know, the compressor never kicked on for months before he even brought it over. So it's a good thing we restored the functionality of the system. It did need a new module. Why did the old module get corrupt? Did it have something to do with you know, the charging system? Perhaps, because he said that several times the car would actually, you know, stop charging with the alternator plugged in, deplete the battery so much that it would just start shutting things off. And if modules get to that low voltage state and try to do something, that could potentially mess up the brain. So leaving the alternator unplugged at steady at 14 volts, I think, is the safe thing to do for now, until we might resolve that problem later. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching. And what can I say? Can I recommend those cars in terms of keeping them on the road for a long time? Absolutely not. You saw that module we had to order from freaking China through Alibaba. That was the only source that I could find with that part number. Dealer's useless. Even eBay didn't have it. So I would actually rather keep one of these on the road. It's easier. Even with those UFO brake rotors, you can still buy them. They're expensive. All Audis are going to be money pits, you know, sooner or later. But cars like this 91 only has one computer. Everything else you can still repair on your own. That's the beauty of old cars. And I'm not going to say anything about a 90s Toyotas. I mean, they're boring, yeah, but low maintenance, and they'll go forever. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.